Welcome to the Free Cities podcast. My name is Timothy Allen, and this is the official podcast of the Free Cities Foundation. Hello, and welcome to episode number 38 of the Free Cities podcast. Today, I have a conversation for you with one of our esteemed ambassadors by the name of Raphaël Lima. Now, Raphaël is, at heart, I suppose, what I would call a libertarian influencer. In his home country of Brazil, his daily YouTube show, Ideias Radicais, has over 650,000 subscribers. By the way, that's radical ideas. For the non-Portuguese speaking amongst you. He's also the founder of both the Free Market Institute in Brazil and Seti.io, which is a company that, in their own words, helps our customers to live and do business without borders. My definition of which would be that they help people move around the globe to jurisdictions that treat them better. In this discussion, we touch upon all the aspects of Raphael's work in promoting ideas of libertarianism, anarcho-capitalism, and free cities, from the importance of getting your ideas out there at a grassroots level by telling relatable stories to the common person, to having a very robust plan to bring ideas of liberty into the political mainstream in Brazil. A country which I've heard recently from a number of people currently houses the biggest libertarian movement in the world. You learn a new thing every day. Anyway, this is one for the digital nomads amongst you as well, since I get to dive into Raphael's list of top locations to relocate to in 2023. Now, if the kind of things that you hear on this podcast get you excited, then you'll love the meat space version of it that we hold each year in Prague. Liberty in Our Lifetime, as it's called, will be held on the 14th and 15th of October this year, and it's really your best chance to meet all the movers and shakers from the Free Cities movement all in one place. Join us to listen, share, and build the future together, and I will most certainly see you there myself. In the meantime, of course, it just leaves for me to say to you, are you sitting comfortably? Good. Now relax and enjoy my conversation with Raphaël Lima.
Entire career is a tangent, so don't worry, man.
Well, that's good, because I don't have any particular direction I want to go in.
Okay, but you know what we do.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I know, and I love all that. Digital nomadism, second citizenship.
Oh, okay. So you know, I have the Seti company, which is like protecting Brazilians from the state, basically, and helping them to get out. And then I have my channel, which is a Libertarian YouTube channel, just promote Libertarianism. And on top of that, we have mostly three initiatives. One is we elect people. We set up campaigns to elect representatives in all three levels. And it's actually a pretty large team. And we already got around, I don't know numbers by head, but I think it's like 60 city councilors elected at this point in Brazil, which is quite a lot. And we also have another department which does, basically we consult for those elected officials, you know, people we worked in elections or not, just liberty-minded politicians, really, who want to implement liberty-minded policies in their cities or states. And we help them draft out legislation and implement those things and do audits and legal reviews, all that type of stuff. And we have, it's not mine because it's an institute, like nobody owns an institute. It's amongst people. I mean, legally in Brazil, nobody owns an institute. It's an association of people, which does lobbying in Brasilia for, in the federal level, for free market policies. And it was that organization which passed It was us who passed the, I don't know if you heard that, the export zone legislation in Brazil, which is kind of halfway into a private city. So we drafted that and we passed that, and that was fun. So
okay, well,
it's a lot of stuff.
Let's break them down then. Like, so yeah, 3 things I got: Seti, your YouTube channel, and your kind of work with
elections and
okay, right, that's good. What I was going to before we even go into those, what I wanted to talk about, is it true that Brazil has a massive libertarian population? Not with respect to the actual population, so not the percentage of the population, but sort of, you know, like as far as the number of people in Brazil,
the raw number of libertarians. Yeah, it depends on how you define a libertarian, but probably, you know, by brute number, we're probably the largest movement in the world. And by the percentage of the population, I'm not sure. I think Georgia beats us.
Right.
I think Georgia can beat, like, I haven't gone there. I haven't talked to Georgians, but my impression is that, you know, per capita, they might be ahead of us. But on the raw number, yeah.
So why is that? Like, what is it about Brazil in particular? Is it your political history? What, you know?
No, it's, you know, I have this discussion a lot in Brazil, and especially when I go overseas, like, foreigners ask that because it's funny. It's fun when you guys go into Brazil and we're having events with hundreds of people, and you're like, dude, if we have a huge event, it has like 40 people. What the hell? It's really funny to watch your faces when you go there. Like, Titus went to the Fórum da Liberdade, which is a liberty forum in Brazil. It has 5,000 people. So he was like completely decombobulated. It was fun. But we've had the discussion a lot. And let me tell you first what it's not. So it's not... the country had a huge economic crisis and people woke up and decided to hit the state. Because if that were the fact, Venezuela would be like Encapistan at this point. So that doesn't explain it. You can say, like, it's the culture. And I think there is a thing in Latin culture where we are more extreme with our feelings. I used to study psychology. I didn't graduate, but there was a thing that I thought was really funny. That self-reporting tests on like emotion or focus or whatever have to be corrected from Europe to Latin America. Because if I do a test and ask like, how do you often feel anxiety regarding A, B, and C, and D? If I ask you to rank 1 to 5, Europeans will tend to go 2, 3, or 4. Latins will tend to go 1 or 5. So you have to correct the test, because we are more extreme in our feelings, in our emotions, in our thoughts, in our positions. So that may lead Latins to be more friendly to more extreme ideologies, which not necessarily libertarian. Could be just more left-wing or more right-wing or just more, you know. It could be that, you know, the Latino energy. Maybe. Doesn't explain why it's libertarian, right? What else? We had a really dumb president in Dilma Rousseff. I mean, like, complete shoebox of an individual. Just, it was nonsensical to watch her talk. I mean, Joe Biden is senile. She wasn't. And she was like on the same level. and you could say like, well, maybe it was like that and people just started to disrespect the state. Yeah, but a lot of countries also have that, so it doesn't explain it. I mean, I think the culture is a little bit, but the fact is, and that's really a spoiler on my lecture on Students for Liberty Europe tomorrow. It comes down really to leaders and to people who explain these ideas. And I know that this is kind of a dunk on other countries, kind of like, well, you're not doing your jobs, but yeah, kind of it's that, you know. We had a lot of people in Brazil from different walks of life explaining libertarianism, teaching libertarianism to people, teaching free market economics to people. I'm not graduated, I'm a really relaxed guy. I'm very casual in my channel. You see, I'm recording with like a t-shirt. That's intentional. I don't want to be recording like with a suit and formal words. I curse, I use lingo, I do a lot of stuff, and that connects to a certain type of people. And then you had like the Mises Institute, and they're all like wearing suits and being like super serious, and that talks to some people. And then you have like livres, which is the free, the literal translation is the free ones, I guess. And they're not even like hardcore libertarian. They're white tent free market, because liberal in the original sense, like classical liberal, right? And they're doing that with a more like popular approach. They want to get into the favelas. They want to get into simpler people. So you have a lot of competition to that. And you have that very strongly over the last 10 years. A lot of people talking about these ideas. And I think we just got the ball rolling. I think we just got to people and started teaching to them. Like, I don't know what Javier Milei has done in Argentina, because I don't speak Spanish. Like, at all. To save my life, I couldn't. So I don't know what happened there. I would like to analyze that phenomenon as well. But my suspicion is that as well. Like, they had like, I don't know, like 20 or 30 people that were just really good at explaining the ideas, and each one got to different places. And I think that another thing that helped us in Brazil is that the opposition is just so bad. Like there are two right wings in Brazil. There is like the conservative, productive right wing, and there are the guys who they need a doctor,
What do you call what? They're the far right.
They're like, it's not far right. It's crazy. It's different.
The crazy right.
It's different. And why was talking about that?
The two types of party.
The point is that we contrast with them, because like normal people look at us, like the normal people on the street, they look at their campaigns and they go like, so they want a military intervention. What? And then they look at the left wing guys and it's like, so in a country where 100 million people out of a population of 210 million people, 100 million people today don't have access to sanitation. And the extreme left wing then thinks that the thing that we should be discussing now is transgender bathrooms. Common people look at that and go, I think you might have missed on that one. And the libertarians, when we are on elections, what we're talking is we want jobs, prosperity, stability. We don't want inflation. We want peace. We want people to have guns so they can defend themselves from criminals. And like, the common person looks at this and gets the contrast with the other parties and goes, why is the radical guy the most, sensible person in the room? And we got a lot of people, I think, also in elections where they're normal. I remember Wolfgang Lahr, which is the president from Students for Liberty, he once said, like, the people in LibertyCon Brazil are just so normal. Like, we don't have like, crazy gun-toting activists. I don't have a problem with those people. Like, it's not I'm saying like that's bad. I'm just saying like, the campaigns that we have done with Ideias Radicais with candidates, it's like, well, she's a mom. She used to work in an airline, and now she's running for city councilor because she's a mom. She's a libertarian, and she wants to bring liberty to the city and take care of the children, take care of the families. She looks normal. We had another guy who was he's a lawyer. He advocates for women who have been victims of domestic violence and that type of stuff. And so it's common causes. We're not, crazy. Like, people look at this and go, this talks to me. And I think that when they get into office as well and they start doing their thing, people not only realize what we were saying theoretically on our channels, but they also realize in practice. So, now we have this legislation which simplifies opening businesses, and now there are more jobs. Oh, see, they have a point. Oh, that sounds nice.
But is this anything to do with the politics of the left and right changing? Like, you talk about transgender bathrooms and stuff, obviously. Yeah. But are the left and right both talking nonsense? So libertarian ideas sort of straddling them in the middle seem very normal, or are they new ideas that people are kind of really tuning into?
I think there's a lot there. To a lot of people, what we say also sounds as nonsense. Let's be fair. We still sound as nonsense to like 60% of the Brazilians. There was a recent poll in Brazil which said that 38% of the population is favorable to privatizations, which is up from 20% 7 years ago. So, double the number in 7 years. It sounds good. If you can get if we can get some 15-20% more, that would be nice. It takes about like a decade, I don't know. But there are still a lot of people don't like our ideas, and that's okay. But the point is, Brazil has tried pretty much every single policy and government except two: free market economics and communism. Those are the only ones which we haven't tried. Like we had a military junta.
They're going to try communism then.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, they elected a guy. They elected that guy. But we're next. We're next. But the point is, so people are kind of just traumatized with promises. We had a lot of inflation crisis. We have a lot of political crisis. Unemployment's always high in Brazil. There's a lot of problems. So people are always like pissed off at politicians. And I think that the idea of making big changes when you have nothing is more palatable. Because I don't know, like I'm just speculating, okay? But I think that if you go to Denmark and you say like, everything is wrong, we need to change, people are going to be like, I mean, look, we might have problems, but everything is not wrong. It's kind of actually nice, We have a lot of taxes, okay? There are problems, so we got to fix things, but everything is not wrong. We live in one of the nicest countries in the world. So, let's change the whole system. I'm not sure. But when you go to a country like Brazil, which has nothing, you're like, everything is wrong. And you look around and you realize, yeah, everything looks very much wrong. Yeah, I think we have alternatives that actually speak to the more innovative people in the population, the people who are more disposed to think of new ideas and venture forth into something new. Which is funny because the Libertarian Party in Brazil, Liberal Libertarian Party, whatever you want to call it, is actually called Novo. It's new. So it's kind of funny.
What's the percentage of their reach into politics then?
And percentage in the representation?
Yes.
It's actually quite low in the federal chamber. It was 8 of 513 congressmen. We have a lower chamber and upper chamber. And the lower chamber was 8 of 513. We got a big loss actually in 2022 because of external factors. It was a very polarized election, and it came down to 3, so it's under 1%. But if you look in state chambers and municipal chambers, it's actually growing. We have around 60 or so city councilors. We have governor, which is Zema. It's the governor of the second largest state in the economy in Brazil, just loses to São Paulo. And he might be president in 2026. He might be elected, we don't know. But the point is like to translate that into elections is actually quite hard. But there is a big audience for that. And it's not just that party's representatives. If I were to count you, of the 513 congressmen today, and I actually work with that. Like I am counselor on an institute which does lobbying in Brasilia for free market policies. So if we were to propose something free market, just in general, like privatize X or deregulate that, we would have somewhere in between 100 to 150 votes before we need to call anyone. They would just be like, yep, I'm down with that. Have you read it? Nope. It's privatizing the F. Screw that. Whatever. So, even though like the actual free market party doesn't have that big of a representation, and I'm a member of that party, by the way, there is an ethos right now in a lot of representatives in a lot of levels that it's not like they're classically liberal. They're not libertarians. They're not classical liberals. But they realize that on a 0 to 10 scale, 10 being like North Korea, Brazil is like a 6, and they realize that it should be a 3 at most. Like they still like a lot of state things, but they agree that we've gone overboard by a long margin and we need to scale it back. So right now, the next years, and especially after this presidency, which is a left-wing presidency, which is a disaster, when whoever comes in to fix that in 2026, the agreement is we're going to scale back like about half, and then we're going to fight on the rest. This is what's going on pretty much.
But, I mean, are you a full backer of the democratic system in general? Is it something?
No, by any means, no. I am a libertarian. I am an anarcho-capitalist. I don't think the state has any function in society. But what I always say is, I'm not against democracy. I'm against voting, because democracy, especially in Brazil right now, but democracy technically means a lot of stuff, like due process of law. That's inside democratic values. Like, no libertarians against that. Freedom of speech, that's supposedly, not lately, but supposedly is inside of what you would call a democratic system. I'm not against that. Separation from church and state. Yeah, I'm not against that. I'm in favor of separation of state and a lot more stuff, So there are a lot of values in a democratic system, which I agree. I just disagree with the whole concept of you voting on me. That's my problem. So I don't say that I'm against democracy. I say that I'm against voting, because if you say that you're against democracy, especially on a Latin context, most people would think, oh, so you want a dictatorship, because that's the opposite thing. So you don't want freedom of expression. You don't want LGBT rights. You don't want, you want like military schools. And no, I don't want that. I just don't want other people voting on my life. That's it. But I play the system because that's the game. I can punch a wall, get pissed off, scream at a cloud, whatever. It's not going to change the fact that that system is already there. So, and it's not like I'm saying that this is the only way that we can change the world. We can change the world in a lot of ways. Like I like the crypto initiatives. I love them. But the point is, at some point, some politician is going to go, nope. And we need some guys in there on that Congress to say, no, that's not passing. No, we're not voting that. No, we're going to block that. And we've done that in Brazil. We actually have held back some legislation that would have curtailed freedoms. So I think it's like a mixed strategy. I don't like the system. I don't want it to exist. But the game is what the game is. So I'm going to play it.
Talk about some of the influence you've had. We were talking about it briefly earlier, but ways that you've affected the political sphere.
Ways that I have affected.
Or that you were talking earlier about how you were influencing government policy.
Yeah. So we have two different sections of my work, I guess. One is inside my company, which is Ideias Radicais, and it's an area of my company which we called it's Gabinete de Liberdade. The translation would be the Freedom Cabinet or something like that. It's a very localist strategy. I think Hoppe would be happy to know that this exists, I guess. Which is, we have elected around 60 city councilors in Brazil in 2020, which was the municipal elections. 2024 is municipal elections again. Our goal is to elect at least 200 city councilors in Brazil. And usually it's we have like one or two in 15 or 20 councilors. So you think, oh, they're the smallest majority. No, we get a lot of stuff, because usually you are in small or medium cities where the other councilors, they don't have any economic study. They don't have like ideological studies. They just represent like that neighborhood or the pets or the civil servants, or just they're not anything. So you get with the law. So you come in with the law and say, let's simplify, opening companies and running small businesses in the city, to get the inspectors off of small people. And they're all like, yeah, okay, why would I not do that? Only the left-wing guys are against that, and not even all of them, because they're like, oh, this is to help like Maria, who owns like a fruit stand, not the big bank. Screw the big bank, but this is not about it, the huge bank. This is about some guy who's cutting hair and doing beards, just it's a side job because he's also an Uber driver or something. Let's help him out. So we have that cabinet, and we do consulting and support for city councilors in Brazil to create legislation that helps freedom, which it sounds weird, but it's like securing rights or just generally prohibiting government from doing stuff. We revoke a lot of stuff. We have a thing in Brazil which is called the revogaço, which is a big repeal. I don't know. What we do is we take the entire body of legislation of a city, read it one by one, and find what impedes growth or economic activity or whatever, or it's just insane or illegal or unconstitutional, and there are a lot of stuff. And we send all of that to revocation, to be taken down or to be reformed. We have done that on 21 cities already. It's over 100,000 laws that are, it's a lot. We've read every single one of them. It's insane.
100,000 laws.
Yeah, we've read every single one of them. And we've sent roughly 2,000 for repeal. And you might think that 2,000 is kind of low, but of that 100,000, 50,000 is just the budget law of the city of 1992. So it's like, that's not, that's a law, but that's not. What part of the legislation actually interacts with the citizen on a daily basis? Because there's legislation which is like, changes the name of the Secretary of Education to Secretary of Education and Culture. Yeah, that's a lot, but whatever. If you think just the legislation that actually touches your life in Brazil, it's roughly 20% on the city. So if we're sending 2% of the whole thing, we're actually sending about 10% of the legislation which somehow interacts with the individual to be revoked or to be changed significantly. Like there was a fair law in Itajaí, which, even the city inspectors were like, this is dumb, man. And we changed it, modernized it to help, the fairs, what's the market gardens, people are selling like cabbage and like broccoli and that type of stuff and fish. It's like, let's make that simpler. We do a lot of that. We do accounts auditing. We've actually taken down a mayor on that. But because of Brazilian legislation, if a mayor, if the budget comes out in the end of the year and it's negative, he may lose his mandate. But you have to do it's really complicated. Prove that it's actually wrong and then convince the other city councilors because they may be like, yeah, he overspent like 10 million doing schools. Are we really going to take him down for that? It's like, yes, because it's debt. We're going to have to pay that. You gotta, if you forgive 10 million, next year is going to be 20 and 100 and the city is already in debt for 2 billion and our city budget is 1 billion. So what the fuck, you got to cut this guy down. We've done that. And it's really on the local level. We're starting to do urban reform at this point, which is like really complicated to get. But to think on how we can transfer urban administration or the administration of a space to private hands, because people usually think that the private ends at your door. So the sidewalk and the street, they're like the state. They're not like a service or a product, which is like the whole point of the Free Cities Institute. It's like you can have the city as a product. So we're trying to do like some halfway into that because you can't, do that legislation in the city level. It has to be a federal level. But on a city level, you can do something which we are implementing right now. I can't go into a lot of detail because NDAs, but the idea is, if 100% of the people of a block or a street or an area consent to something, they create an institution above them, and that takes the administration of the urbanization of that area. So think of like a street that has a lot of restaurants, right? So they can all sign that and become like a kind of like an open mall, and they can take over the street. They can't just, just blow up the street or whatever. There are rules, I wish they could, but, we got to get what passes. But they can, just change the sidewalks, change lighting, put security, put some, musicians playing, or I don't know, change the rules on building on that, because, there are the facades. Like Portugal has a lot of this. Like you can reform the building, but there has to be the original color. And they can be like, but we consent that this area is different, so we can just do different stuff. So you're kind of turning that into an open mall. But you can do that in a residential neighborhood as well. So maybe a company can say, well, I'm going to partner with you, and I'm going to pave the roads and do the maintenance of that park or that square, and I'm going to put some security here, and I'm going to charge you a fee extra. And you can say, well, we already paid taxes for that. But yeah, but you can have a discount on that. And everyone consented. So we consented that the company is going to take care of that, and we're going to pay extra for that.
Well, and the government reduce taxes for those people?
The idea is that you can reduce somehow. You can reduce somewhat. You can't reduce 100%, but you can take a cut, because that is an expenditure that you're not having anymore. So we can cut that.
And that actually happened. So those people living on that
that
street,
is on the works to being implemented. Okay, it's pretty sure that it's going to pass, but I can't go into detail of where or because NDAs and
that's fascinating. That's the first stage in a private city. I mean, like, you're basically private. Yeah. Well, if you think about it, the first, in one sense, is the first preliminary step, because not only does it create a private, a private area, it's also the government are kind of saying, okay, yeah, you can do that, and you no longer have to pay us. You can pay the private.
You have to pay something, but you can have a cut in taxes because of that. Those services that don't have to be provided anymore. But the core idea here is sometimes I joke that I'm a gateway drug. Like my channel is, people joke that my channel has videos who are like hardcore libertarian. There are videos who are news, and there are videos who are like gateway drugs.
But before you go on, I better tell everyone your YouTube channel is called Ideas Radicas.
Yeah,
radical ideas. Yeah.
Yeah, it comes from a Hoppe quote. He says like, we need to change society and we need radical ideas. And I was like, yeah, that's a cool name.
And it's a big channel, right?
I don't know, define big, 650,000 people. Yeah, I don't know if that's big.
Yeah, that counts as very big. When you compare it to legacy TV stations, mind you, probably not where you are, but where I am, that's not bad, But you've got a lot of people living in Brazil. No, I think that counts as large. Okay, sorry, carry on.
But I have videos which I call like gateway drugs. Like there is let me think of something here. Let's see. I have a video recently which there was an election fraud, not in the counting, but in the making of the candidates who were going to run. The party defrauded a few things, and that got into a trial, and that got invalidated, and they lost two chairs in the city. And I think it was one or two. Who cares? But one of the guys, he actually elected to another thing later, and he's famous. It's like he's Nicholas. He's the most voted chamber congressman in Brazil by like 1 million votes. And he was in that on that defrauded thing and it's not his fault. The party fucked up. It wasn't him. He's not guilty. But the point is that it got famous because he was there. Okay. So people were like, wait. So a city councilor was elected with a fraud, and because the way that you run for elections in Brazil is like, it's not a district vote. It's the party runs for the city. So to get a seat on the chamber, you need like 10,000 votes. So you can field like 20 candidates, and they get a lot of votes, and the most voted one, if they hit 10,000 votes, the most voted one gets the chair. So you can fill up the group of candidates with a lot of people just to get a few extra votes. And there was a quota, like 30% of the women, 30% of the people on the party need to be women, running for office. But often you can't find women. So you just get like, you put the candidate and his wife as a candidate or something, just, to, fill the thing up. And so a lot of people said, wait a second. So the guy that was city councilor and he voted a lot of stuff, he shouldn't be city councilor because his party defrauded the thing. And my video was like, yeah, and that's normal. But he was investigated because he was famous. But if you actually investigate all parties, some 50% of legislators in Brazil will lose their seats. So by that token, pretty much every single legislation passed over the last 10 years is illegitimate. Even if you believe in like democracy and state, by that rule, pretty much everything passed over the last 10 years is illegitimate. And people are like, whoa. And then I go, but if you kind of think about it, there are other ways that the government is illegitimate. So it's a gateway drug video. You see, like I'm getting people on one thing and kind of working them towards a direction, right?
But as a channel, you're a libertarian channel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But not all the videos are just like, taxation is theft, privatize everything. A lot of videos are like just, this decision is dumb and you're going to pay 100 billion in taxes more because of that. And by the way, taxation is theft.
Is it like a weekly news, daily news show? Daily, and it's daily. Like a news show.
YouTube demands that basically. Like you can have two formats. You can have like the super produced video or just daily, and they go daily. But I was talking about that because I think that this legislation of like the urbanization is a gateway drug. Like, because if I just go to people and say, let's privatize the city, people are going to be, wait up. Hold up. That's kind of a bit too much. Okay, no, calm down. What about you all consent, okay, and then some other private company is going to come here and charge a fee that you consented with, and they're going to, take care of the space and, paint the plaza and, cut the grass and, okay. And then maybe a few cities implement that, not all. Maybe a few neighborhoods. But it's enough for people to see the contrast. There's something that I always say, 20% of people are very abstract in their ideas. They're willing to entertain an abstract idea. 80% of people, in Brazil, are very concrete in the sense of, yeah, your idea is fun, but I don't have money for food next month. So do you have a solution for us so there are more jobs next month because I might be fired? Yeah, but we can do crypto and I don't care. What about my job next month? So when you implement a concrete solution like that, people go like, okay, this is definitely better. And I see that it's better. Because before that, and I think especially in a Latin context, I don't know about Europe or the US or whatever, whomever is listening to us right now, but in a Latin context, I always compare voters with like a traumatized woman. It's like her father was a drunkard, her first boyfriend hit her, her second boyfriend, took a loan on her name and got away and just fled. And you're the third guy coming in, and you're a good guy, you're a nice guy, but she's not buying it. But she's not believing in you. She's like, people have done stuff to me. Why should I trust you? And you have to like win it, step by step. I think the voter is a lot like that in Latin countries. Like they have heard like a bajillion promises and nothing delivered. And we're the next guy coming in with a promise like, oh no, I'm going to do jobs. They're like, yeah, you're going to do a lot of jobs. I know. So when you come with something like that and you show it to him, this is better, you convince a lot of people. So it's like, it's a step in a way,
When the example you gave of privatizing the street and et cetera, do the residents sign a contract for that, or will the residents sign a contract?
So the idea, we don't know exactly how it's going to come out. It's not it's not income paper signed on effect yet, but the general idea is what's the name? Abaixo assinado. What's it in English? It's a sign up thing, It's we on this street, It's suppose you have like a street with a lot of restaurants, and one of them gets the idea. Okay, you got to convince the other one, so they all sign up. You have to show the signatures. You have to show everyone consented, 100% consent. Nobody's forced, and then they create like a company above them that manages the whole thing, and the statute of that company can be decided by them. So they can be like equal partners or a more partnerships have stock depending on the area of the business or how much money they pitch in. Just whatever. Do whatever you feel like as a contract. You can do different things. I don't care. But that's the idea in general.
And as far as the whole of Brazil goes, are there any projects in the works that you would class as kind of free city projects?
There is one that we did, which is already pen to paper, sanctioned, and going through an investment coming in, which is in the 1990s. Brazil became a democracy again, came out of the dictatorship in 88. We had a constitution in 89. And there were like 2 or 3 big inflation crises after that. And the 90s were basically, redoing the country, basically. So we had a new currency, which is the real, which was the first stable currency in the history of Brazil, basically. And during that, a lot of legislation to develop the country was done, and most of it is scrap. One of them was some export production zones. What was the idea? The idea is the tax structure in Brazil is completely maddening. It's the worst country in the world in terms of complexity to calculate your taxes. It's just insane. Like it's bizarre. And other than that, you have a lot of bureaucracy on top of that. So the idea was, look, there are companies who just produce to export. Like, I don't know, they raise some shrimp over there, and all of that shrimp is going straight to Sweden, like something like that. So, and when it goes, you have to walk back all the taxes that they paid in Brazil because it's an export, blah, blah. So why are we forcing them to go through the entire system, to then get out of the system and export? Why won't we create like a special zone where they can produce those things there as long as it is to export? And you just kind of skip the legislation of Brazil. That was the idea. So they created some 13 or 14 of those. Only one worked, which is in Ceará. It's the Passem zone, which has like a huge steel mill. I don't know the name of the, who cares? But it's a huge steel mill there. It's the only one that actually works. The other ones were just too bureaucratic, too complex, and it never got to anything. And because of COVID, there was some legislation on those zones because that zone in specific produced oxygen, and maybe you had to sell it to Brazil because, oxygen, and they had to do some legislation on that. And we came in with the idea of, I don't know, I mean, you were talking about, like the oxygen of the zone, coming here. Why don't we talk about restructuring the entirety of the idea of the zone and change your law that is 5 lines to about 40 pages of a new structure on export zones. And we got that through. That actually happened. So we did a lot of changes. So now the council managing the zone is not state appointed, it's privately appointed from the companies who are there. You can create new zones, so it's not because they created zones in places which are we want to develop those places. Why aren't they developed? Because they're shit places. They don't make sense. So you put zones in places that don't make sense production-wise. So that's why they're not developing. So now you can create new zones in other places, and it's not just the federal government which can create, the state and local can create. An industrial association can requisite one, can say, look, we think that one here would be good. Government, can you approve it? You can create one under existing industry, in fact, because you can say, we're already exporting, but the production zone is 300 miles that way, which is dumb. Why don't we put one here, right? There are a lot of things like that. We didn't get a lot of stuff into that law. We wanted to have housing units inside that, but then some politicians said, well, that's kind of a private city then. And we were like, yeah, is that bad? Maybe. Is that a problem? Apparently so. Okay, so we took that out.
Really? So, but hold on a minute. So what?
It wouldn't pass if it had that.
Really?
So it's there's what you want and what you can get. So we realized that the law would not pass with the housing units. So that was off. But you can have production, you can have supporting production, you can have contracts in different currencies, you can have different regulation. And what happened, that got passed because, like I said before, you don't have to have libertarian or classic liberal-minded people in Congress. We're look, the more that Brazil exports, let's talk to the right wing. The more that Brazil exports, the more Brazil has economic independency and has actual sovereignty. Because you can have paper sovereignty, Paraguay is sovereign. But whatever, Tibet was sovereign and then China was no, you're not, and invaded. You're going to do what? You don't actually have, the name at a table. So the more you're present in the world economics, the more you have actual sovereignty and the more you can stand up to other countries. And the right-wing guys were yeah, that sounds cool. That sounds cool. We should have those export zones. It's so nice. And then we go to the left-wing development guys. They're not socialists. They're more British Labour Party, maybe. They're not full Marxist socialists. They're we need to protect the worker. Okay. So we're going to have more industry, which pays higher wages. And industry is good. Got to develop the country, bring that investment. They were yeah, okay. I'm down with that. The worker legislation applies, right? Right. Maybe not in the future, we can amend that. But right now, it does. Okay. And we got the votes of very different groups because they said, well, this is to help industrialize the country, and got the law in. And there are a lot of, the acronym is ZPEs, Zona de Processamento e Exportação, Export Processing Zones. And a lot of zones started to develop over the last few years. I've been to a few of them. A lot of investments coming through. ZPEs are being created. It's actually kind of beautiful.
Can they make their own legislation?
They can regulate themselves in their production on that zone. But they don't have free labor laws. We wanted to get that through, but we wouldn't have the votes to pass it.
So they're a work in progress, though, according to
Yeah, they're a work in progress. The idea is, like I said, it's a gateway drug. So it's you go from 0 to 4, but you want 10. But if I propose 9, I don't get it. It's not going to be approved. Sorry.
What's the getting from like 4 to 10? What's the main incentive for the government? Like, because you've got to convince the government to hand
Here's the thing.
over
There is no such a thing as the government, right? It's not one organization. Like, you have the presidential veto. Okay. Like, you may pass something in Congress and the president just goes like, no, and vetoes it. Yeah, okay, maybe. And if the president likes it and he has a lot of power negotiating in the chambers, yeah, he can help the law to get through. But the votes in the lower and the upper chamber, they're not the government. They're different people with different interests. So whenever you do legislation, and we've done a lot. We've done sanitation law, we've done this, we've done economic freedom legislation, we've done tax reform, we've done a lot of stuff. You always list like, who doesn't give a crap about this or will vote against just because they hate me? Yeah, okay, don't even bother calling that people. But then again, okay, so this is so we've passed sanitation legislation, which is a legislation to basically enforce privatization on sanitation in Brazil, to bring water and sanitation treatment to Brazil. And it was like, okay, so the left wing is just against, whatever, nobody cares. But what about the generic politicians who don't have any ideas? They're just from that region. Okay, let's see. How many deaths per diarrhea have there been in that region over the last decade? We can go to that guy and say, well, look, we want this legislation, yada, yada, because, there is this state-owned water company here, and, you may like it as a state company, but, 11,000 people died every year from 2008 to 2019 because of diseases associated with the lack of sanitation. And we estimate that in your region, like, this many people died, and we can fix this. So I know if you vote for this, people may say that you're privatizing the water, but you can reply saying, no, I'm helping to save, 200 lives per year, children that would die of diarrhea or stupid like medieval diseases. And that's nice for you to say, that sounds cool for a re-election. They're going to be like, yeah, okay, yeah. Plus, if it gets privatized, maybe this is going to be like a couple $1 billion invested in your state, which, it's jobs. So you're bringing jobs to your state. And okay. So you kind of go like group by group. We've done, there was this legislation we worked in, which was a trade deal between Brazil and Chile. And trade deals are kind of hard to work because like nobody cares. Like, why would a congressman care about getting a trade deal with another country? He doesn't represent that country. His priority is his section. So we had to actually map out, look, what do we export to Chile? Meat. We export a lot of meat to Chile. So where does it come from? From these 4 states. Call up all congressmen for those states. You want to help, export the meat from your state? Yeah, you got to vote for that. They agree. What do we import? Yeah, copper. We import a lot of copper. Call up all the legislators attached to the industry. You want cheaper copper? Want the industry to go better? Yeah, vote for that. You got to just list every single thing and fight every single interest and go after people. And meanwhile, the guys who are against it, they're doing the same thing. They're kind of trying to figure out like, who are you going after, and kind of trying to swing the vote. And it's crazy, but yeah.
So according to you, then, what's the most compelling reason or the biggest reason that people get worried when you say we want to privatize the water? You've said that they have absolute distrust in the government, who would be currently providing the water, I take it. So why do they then get uptight when you say we want to privatize the water?
Well, the socialists, don't even bother, right?
Yeah, right. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about normal people.
Yeah. But they just might worry like that the water bill is going to go up like 5-fold, or that some company is going to come in and raise the prices and not do jack shit and just go like, whatever. Or they're worried that the company may screw up, and then who's going to respond for that? Because the company just cares about profit, and the state company cares about the loving hearts of the people.
But they know that they don't already, don't they?
A lot of them don't.
You described them, the voters, as sort
No,
of
I'm not saying the
abused
voters.
wives.
I'm not saying the voters. I'm
right.
saying the congressmen,
Right.
the people who actually put the votes.
Oh, okay. I
The
thought you were
people in
talking
general,
about
the 90% of people are completely unaware of legislation happening. In general, they don't have the slightest clue of what's going on, and whenever they do, they usually have about half of the information wrong. The point is, you have to talk with the congressman to say, look, if someone attacks you over this, you can reply with that. Or if you think that you can be attacked by voting in this and this and this, you can actually preventively, say that you're voting for actually that, and that is really good. And you get the narrative before, okay? So it's basically like how you're going to explain that to the people, type of thing.
So, what's that? I mean, do you have an official role in doing that, or is it's more like an influencer, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know how to describe my job. I mean, man,
it's an influencer. It's a libertarian influencer, isn't it?
I think I'm a bard.
A bard? What do you mean?
It sounds so much better in British.
Well, yeah, it sounds good, but
in a British accent, can you say that again?
A bard?
It just sounds
good.
So
God, man, better. You're not a bard.
But I am.
I don't even know what a bard means, to be honest. What is a bard?
A bard is you usually think of a person who who tells stories, sings stories, and entertains and inspires.
Right.
So that's what I think is my job.
Were bards singing in the ears of kings in the old days then?
Yeah, but I think like because that's kind of a cheeky way to say that. I think that my job is kind of like Carl Sagan, or kind of like maybe Milton Friedman. It's like, but Milton Friedman was but they were both doctorates. Okay, I mean, I'm not even graduated. But my point is, they weren't, being like ultra technical about their jobs. They had that part, but at some point in their careers, they were like, but we gotta go to the masses. And there is like this huge wave, and even though I'm an NCAP, I love like space exploration,
What's wrong with space exploration? And
because it's usually done by the state, right? Because you're like, oh, so you're against the James Webb telescope. Yeah, I don't like that picture, but I think the picture is cool.
I've literally just had a 2-hour conversation about colonizing Mars this morning, and the state is not going to make it to Mars before Elon Musk does.
But the point is that people are like, so you're against like Hubble Space Telescope. And I'm like, yeah, I'm against expenditure, but I think it's like super cool. If we're gonna do it, you might as well, But it's interesting, I guess. But my point is, what was my point? My point is that like there's like an entire generation of people who went into physics and astrophysics and astronomy and space engineering because of Cosmos, because of Carl Sagan. And there's a generation right now who doesn't know what Cosmos is, or they saw like Cosmos 2 with Neil deGrasse Tyson. They were like, "Oh, this is awesome." I think that's my job. I think my job is like, I know the technical part, and it's fun to talk in like a technical podcast as this. This isn't like general audience. But when I'm talking to the general audience, I'm talking like, how can we bring jobs? How can we further the economic development? How can we have more peace? How can we lower criminality? How can we make cities better with liberty? Kind of like Milton Friedman did with Free to Choose. I think that's nice. And there, like, that's my public job. And inside the movement as well. I lecture to a lot of different organizations in Brazil. I'm here to lecture to SFL Europe. And I see my job as a bard. Like my thing that what I'm doing here, my entire point of my lecture here is we've had a liberty wave in Brazil, and we're kind of having one in Portugal as well. And what I want to tell you other people from Europe who like liberty is that my experience is that the future of liberty in your countries, if there is one, I don't know, in a few, there might not be. But if there is one, it's on your hands. No pressure, but I've been in a room of, 20, 30 people who didn't have like the slightest clue what they were doing. And 10 years later, they were in government doing. I've seen that happen. Mm-hmm. I've seen that happen with Iniciativa Liberal here in Portugal. I was here in 2018, and I actually met their crew. They didn't have a single elected official. They had nothing. And they went in a meeting with me. And I thought that the meeting was, that's kind of spoilery, but I thought that the meeting was like, they were going to tell me about like what they were doing. And I got there and it was like, could you like help us and give us some ideas on what to do? Like we don't have the slightest clue. And I don't think I was really useful because I don't know like Portuguese culture that much. But we talked a few hours about like what we were doing in Brazil. 5 years later, and I'm not saying this is my fault, okay? It's like 99% of responsibility. But they have, I think, like 6 congressmen, and I think they may be tied with Javier Milei in Argentina, I'm not sure. But the largest percentage representation in a parliament or lower chamber, it's them in 5 years. So my point is, to all the people who are watching here, LibertyCon in Europe, who are from, I don't know, if in Romania, Bulgaria, Germany. I don't think Germany can do it. I mean, I think Germany is lost.
All right, we'll give Germany a pass.
But I mean, like Hungary or Montenegro or whatever. If you're from that country and there are like 5 people in this room, the future of your country may be you, and you can do it. And here's how we've done it. Here's how the basic things. So, don't think that the system is like this huge thing that you can't take down. I had the idea to do what I do today in a LibertyCon, not a LibertyCon, but a state conference from Students for Liberty in my state, which I used to live in. It was like 200 people in a room, and I was nothing. Like I didn't have anything. And I was in that room and watching the lectures, and I'm like, what if I started a channel and started talking about some stuff, got some people together, and then we're, I don't know, might get a job out of that, get some income, sell some shirts, I don't know, some mugs, maybe get like 50, maybe 100,000 people. Yeah, that might add up to something. I don't know. And eight years later, here we are, So what I'm saying to those people is like, give it a go. You might do it. So in that sense, I think that I'm a bard. Like I'm here, spinning tales of heroes past into how you can be one of those as well.
Tell me about the YouTube channel then. First of all, does it make money, or does it fund itself?
The YouTube channel doesn't fund itself.
You don't put ads on it or whatever?
There are, but I mean, my entire operation is, let me do some quick math here. My entire operation today is somewhere between 10 to 12,000 euros monthly. That's actually less than around 10,000 euros.
Just
monthly.
for the channel.
No, the entire
Everything.
team.
Okay.
The entire team. The elections team, the consulting for mandatories team, the social networks. I think.
Does that include Seti?
No, that doesn't include
different.
Seti.
Right.
Seti is
So what is that called? What's the umbrella?
The Ideias Radicais.
What?
It's the channel, the Ideias Radicais channel, and the teams below it.
Right. Okay.
So
and this is.
I think the entire operation is like 8,000 to 10,000 euros a month, something like that. YouTube brings in like 800 euros a month.
Is that all?
Yeah.
650,000 subscribers. I would have thought that was.
Yeah, because the algorithm doesn't like us.
Oh yeah.
There's that problem, and we're monetizing, and there's like we're monetizing in Brazil, which doesn't bring a lot of dollars.
Is that right? So if you were being watched in America,
it
would make a lot of money.
Yeah, I thought about doing a YouTube channel in English and starting from zero, but it's like, well, first you got to fix Brazil, So you got to focus, I don't know. It's something I kind of come and go. Like every 6 months I decide either wait, I'm going to do it, I'm not going to do it. And I'm not sure. But if I were monetizing it on a different level, like internationally, I would be making like a lot more money.
Yeah.
But and the thing is that a lot of sponsors, a lot of people who advertise in YouTube, they don't want to advertise in videos about politics. So we get like very reduced monetization from that. But we run on donations. We run on services that we provide. Like we set up campaigns. We help elect people. That's a service. We charge people for that. We consult for people in office. That's a service. We charge people for that. And we charge and by the way, we don't get state money. We charge the people, the people in office or other people, bankroll them and pay their, we don't do contracts with the government. So we have a lot of different financing ways. But yeah, YouTube is like some change in the pot. It doesn't.
And so talk about Seti then, which is the third arm of. No, well, actually, you've got two arms. I think you've got Seti and the
it's actually
radical
three,
ideas.
because the lobbying team in Brasilia is not mine. It's a separate institute, it's the Free Market Institute,
Okay.
which I helped it to start, and I'm a counselor today, but it's not mine. Like I don't run it. You have a council, and,
So Seti is a private company.
Seti is a private company.
Helps individuals.
Yeah. We help Brazilians. Seti is my Brazil put. It's like, okay, I'm trying to fix Brazil by doing libertarian stuff and But there are a lot of people who don't believe in it, or they don't want to. You're gonna take like 10 years to fix this. I'm not staying those 10 years. Like screw that. There are the people who just want to go away, to not live there, or just to live there but to pay less taxes. There's a market for that, and so the idea is like, what if it all goes wrong? Then what? So I always wanted to have a company that helps people to get out of Brazil, because it's like, what if we turn into Venezuela? What if I need to get like 300,000 of my fans out of Brazil in like a year? How would I do it? I need to have that. Plus, in the middle of the way, it's a nice product. Like we help you to leave Brazil to, and by the way, we don't just help Brazilians. We help anyone. It's just that since I talk in Brazilian, since I talk in Portuguese, and public tends to do that. But if for some reason you're a foreigner and you're watching this and you're thinking, but I want to live in Brazil, you can live there in very low taxes. Actually, it's possible. We got the beaches, we got the sun. It's a nice country. We've brought in people from overseas who wanted to live like a digital nomad or invest their life in Brazil. Like their income is foreign. Like it's not a good country for you to come in and open an industry. But if you have like foreign income, or you just want to like live in the beach and kick back and relax, yeah, it could be fun for that. If you're German and you really like the sun. Yeah, I understand you wanting to come, we can help you with that.
But where does your average, or not your average, where would a Brazilian national be looking for a second passport, say? Well, America.
It's not the second passport, because a lot of people think that to change countries you need the passport, and you absolutely don't. But a lot of Brazilians do. But when people leave Brazil, it's really personal, because there are a lot of options. We mostly tend to people who work remotely, like devs or that type of stuff. People who are in betting, who are, poker players, that type of stuff. Investors, a lot of crypto people. And people who have highly mobile jobs, like doctors. The doctor says, well, I can doctor anywhere. I just have to go through the test. And it's like 1 year to get, the certification in that or this or that country. I'm done, and I can be a doctor in any place. Like, no country is going to refuse a doctor, like whatever, So we tend to a lot of those people. And it tends to be really personal. It's like, do you like the cold? No, I really hate the cold. Okay, so, cut out, Estonia, Latvia, just cut that shit. Well, I really love the cold. I like to go skiing and that type of stuff. Okay. Do you know that you could, live like really low tax and have skiing resorts in Bulgaria? People don't know that. There are people, because it's not always like a tax-free decision. You can be completely tax-free and live on Pitcairn Islands in the middle of the Pacific with like 40 people who are dying. Yeah, but that's not fun, But there are things like, I gotta go with my family. I'm going with my wife. She doesn't speak English, so there are guys that there was a guy we had as a client. He had to take like his whole family, and they didn't speak English, so they came to Portugal. So, you're still going to pay a reduced tax from 48 to 20% for the first 7 years, so you're paying 20% tax on your income. But in Brazil, you're paying like 27%, and you're in a country with a lot of better schools, a safe country. That's better. Plus, you could put your companies there and your money there. You're better. Okay. We've reduced your load and you're free now, or freer now. So it really changes a lot. We've sent people to Thailand, to Georgia, to the US. We just don't send people like, it's funny because they're the trap countries, like countries that people really think they are fun, and we're like, no, they're not. Like, yeah, I want to go to Canada. Don't.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't. We have a meme in the company. Like, we have a pre-written email on reasons why you should not go to Canada.
Go on then. What?
Like we have that email, like just it's like copy paste.
Top 5
people are like,
reasons.
oh, I want to go to Canada. No, it's like top 40 reasons.
Give me the top 5. Then.
It's a left wing country that is training to be more left wing. The restrictions during COVID were really crazy. The country's financial pension system, etc., is not sustainable, which means taxes in the future. There are provinces who are more freedom oriented, but do you like polar bears? Because if you're going to live in like fucking Ontario or Vancouver, yeah, you're going to be living like the left wing of the left wing, dude. It's not going to be fun. I want to be with the conservatives. Yeah, do you like polar bears? You're going to see a lot of them if you want to be close to those people,
It was interesting to see. My impression of Canada changed almost over a 2-week period.
They have like state-owned liquor stores.
I know. But it was like,
always... You have nationalized booze. What the hell?
Canada was always the place you went where everyone was really chilled out. I've been there. I thought this is friendly. It was about 20 years ago. It was quite astonishing how it turned.
Just went woke out of nowhere.
Really. And authoritarian. Both together, the worst type.
I love that meme of like the left wing 20 years ago was like, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. And today the left wing is like, fuck you, you will do what they tell you.
Yeah.
And Canada is like that right now. So our point is like Canada is a stock that has maxed out. I mean, it's a nice country. Yeah, you can live there. It has the high taxes. It's a nice country and it's not going to get any better. It's like, it's California. It's San Francisco 10 years ago. It's a nice city and it's not going to get any better.
Come on then. What are your top 3 places on the other end of the spectrum?
On the other end of the spectrum, like Georgia, Tbilisi. Tbilisi is really fun. Georgia is really fun because it's the other way around. I mean, right now it's a bit inflated because like half of the male population in Russia fled to Georgia to avoid the draft, which tells something. They didn't flee to Azerbaijan. They didn't flee to Armenia. They didn't flee to Kazakhstan. They didn't flee to Belarus. They fled to Georgia, which is a long drive, mind you. Plot how many driving hours it is from Moscow to Tbilisi. You're going to have some fun. But Georgia right now is kind of inflated because of that, but it's kind of passed. And it's a country, I mean, there have been some problems lately in Georgia that I've heard of. I'm not like 100% up to date on that. But it's a country that has decided to be free market. It's a country that has decided clearly that they want to be freer. And they're still on the up. So you're getting a company that has a future. Think about that. Another country that we send people to is Costa Rica, because like the cost of living is a bit more expensive. Yeah, okay. In comparison to Central America, but it has a very large expat community because like when you're living in your country, if you go to a place, like if you're going to like the interior of Romania, it's like you're going to have some problems socializing. It's going to be kind of lonely for a while. Not this on the interior of Romania. I don't know you guys, but this is just a generic example, But it has a really big expat community. Cost of living is a bit higher, but you can live pretty much tax-free. It has, it's very tropical. It has very nice beaches. It has a good infrastructure, compared to the level of Central America. So it's, it's very cost effective, I think. Colombia, we're not sure. Like we used to like it more. Now with Petro, it's kind of iffy. I guess Portugal is nice for Brazilians because of the language barrier and the cultural barrier is not that big. Plus, it's a low cost of Europe while still being Europe. That's nice. But a solution very good for Brazilians right now is Uruguay. Uruguay is very close, culturally quite similar. Very low taxes. You can be 0% tax there or low tax there. Depending on what you do, what's your structure. Because, again, it's very personal in the sense of, like, I want to be a doctor. Yeah, that might not be the best thing. But I'm just a programmer and I just want to chill. I just want to be in a chill country. I really like barbecue. I got to have my meat, don't want to be, like, in Europe paying price of gold for a steak. Screw that. The problem with Uruguay is it's kind of like a boring old city. It doesn't have a lot of fun. So, if you're like more of an introvert and you like to be in your house playing chess like me, that's fun. If you need, your parties, if you need your chaos, that might sound a bit like the retirement home for you. It's not that fun,
What about America and Europe? Are they off the table for you?
America and Europe?
America and Europe.
The US, the US is very state by state. Like California is pretty much no-go zone at this point, New York as well. But we've sent people who work with gambling and like poker gambling, that's the type of stuff. Poker playing, by the way, that type of stuff to the U.S. Devs, people want to be like in the richest country in the world. But we're like, go to like Florida or I want a colder place. Yeah, Wyoming is nice. It's very good crypto legislation in Wyoming, by the way. Yeah. Maybe Texas. It's a very state-by-state thing. Europe is a thing, dude. Because like Central Europe is a no-go, pretty much. Like Germany, Austria is like, why? Why would you? Like, just see what Germany did in COVID. Like, it was insane. But there are countries where you can get tax discounts. Spain and Portugal have temporary resident tax discount, where in the first years that you go, you have a discount. I don't know the Spanish one by heart, but the Portuguese one is you pay 20% for the first 7 years. In Brazil, you pay the highest tax is 27.5 plus the consumption tax. In Portugal, the consumption taxes are really low and income taxes are really high. So an average citizen in Brazil pays roughly 40% tax on income. The poorer you are, the higher that goes, because consumption tax is actually quite high in Brazil.
Haven't they just added or about to add a 5-year digital nomad visa in Spain as well?
Yeah, they're doing something like that. I don't know the consulting for the clients. I mostly do like the promotions, so I don't know like the ultra nitpicky details, but I think they're doing something like that. Spain has that. Spain now actually is the fastest way to a passport in Europe. I think it's like you get the permanent visa residency for 2 years, and then you can apply for citizenship. You can be a citizen in like 4 years, which is really easy. So if you're looking for an European passport, Spain is a good idea. Ireland has a huge Brazilian community. Like, there's a joke that if you go to Ireland and just speak Portuguese, you're fine. There are just so many Brazilians there. It's insane, and it's very low tax. It's a very tech country. The problem is the housing prices are just insane. And we recommend a lot of the Balkans, Serbia, Croatia. They're nice countries to be, low tax, and you're still kind of in Europe. Czech Republic is super awesome. Prague is super awesome. The best and cheapest beer in Europe. First of all, I think that's already, enough of a selling point. But you're getting a German culture and infrastructure, but not the legislation or the taxes. You can be there for like 7 or 10% tax a year, which is really nice.
What about the sort of the places that you think of as on the free city spectrum, like Dubai's,
yeah.
Sort of, and
those are the money makers.
What about even in Honduras now?
Roatan. Yeah, recommending Roatan is it's kind of hard because there isn't. It's really for the adventurer. It's like I want to grow with something. Because like I said, we have clients of all types. So if a guy is like, I have my wife and 2 children who are like 3 and 5 and we're not going to homeschool, that's not for you. Like you need a country with like international schools. You can't go to like fucking Montenegro. Like they don't have the structure to receive your kids and, put them in schools and that type of stuff. You need somewhere like Tallinn, Estonia that has international schools, or Dublin or something like that. But the Dubais of the world we call like the money makers. So they're for people who are like, I have a crypto company here in Brazil and it's kind of doing nice, but the regulation just doesn't fit and the taxes are going to be crazy. Or I have we get that a lot. I started investing in crypto like 6 years ago, and I'm a multi-millionaire, and nothing's declared. I'm fucked. I need to get away to help. We get a lot of that, and it's like, are you single? Yeah. Do you want to marry someone? Nah, cool. Go to Dubai. Because like Dubai is not the place where you go to like meet a woman, and most of our clients are male. So where you go to like find a wife and start a family. Dubai is you go to make money. You go to make bank. So if that's your lifestyle and you're a male, like if there is like a single woman who is our client, like Dubai, yeah, maybe no, I don't know, it might not fit for you. Like I said, it's a really personal thing. But those things, the Dubais of the world, those special zones are, they're very niche thing, but they have their place.
What about yourself? You're happy in Brazil?
No, that's why I'm trying to fix it.
But have you got a plan B?
Yeah, I do. But I would only, I used to say that I would only leave if I was sure that Brazil was going to turn full Venezuela and there was nothing we can do about it, or threat of life. Now I think I would stay under threat of life.
Really?
I think I would. Because there is Operation Car Wash, right? No. Operation Car Wash was the big corruption, anti-corruption operation that arrested Lula, that arrested a lot of people, that caught like the biggest scandal in the history of mankind, pretty much. And it was run by the judge Sergio Moro. He left the bench as a judge and became a politician. He's now a senator. And I guess like a month ago, they uncovered a plan by one of the Brazilian mobs, the PCC, it's a criminal organization. They had like a full-on plan to kill him. Like, like cars, guns, the houses, like everything was set up. And he was like, yeah, staying. Wow. I was like, that's some big balls, man. After you did that, I can't, say that I would leave, just stay on and fight. But if I was like persecuted, or because I have people in places, so if it was leaked to me that like, dude, you're going to jail, because the Supreme Court has decided, because like, fuck you, whatever, you're going to jail. Yeah, I would have to maybe if I was jailed, it would help. Maybe it would help. Maybe I would stay. It depends. But then I would flee. Yeah, but under very special circumstances.
And where would you go then?
I've thought about that somewhat. Like, I really like Estonia as a country. Like, I've talked about it a lot, but I can't live there because I have problems with depression. So, winter, not having the sun, that's not gonna work.
You have problems with winter.
Yeah,
it's different.
Yeah. So it would have to be a place. I don't know, like Portugal seems fine, You have a little bit of code, but not too much, and it still has like that Mediterranean vibe, maybe. And I have a lot of friends here, by the way, so.
Tell me a little bit about what excites you in Free Cities, since you know a fair bit about it.
I think it's just the beauty of it, I don't know if most people, but a lot of people come into libertarianism because of the economics or crypto. Like they really start Bitcoin and start studying, and they're like, oh, there's a rabbit hole here. It sounds fun. There is that. There are a lot of people who come in, not in Brazil because Brazil doesn't have wars, but in the US, there are a lot of anti-war people who become libertarian. I became libertarian. The first thing that got to me was just human potential. Just thinking, like I was talking before, like space exploration, like music or sports or that type of stuff, or art, all those things that show here's what men can be. And I have this personal fascination myself on being better. Like I train weightlifting. I love the idea of like, how much can I lift? And what if I had like 2 kilos? Yeah. I like that. I play chess and I compete at playing chess, and I love that. I love to play music. I love the constant idea of trying to be a better version of myself. And
very Ayn Randian.
Yeah, and I got really into kind of like through Milton Friedman and Thomas Sowell and Ayn Rand. And because that's one of the things a lot of people don't know, I was a professional magician for 7 years.
A professional magician?
Yeah. I worked. Because if you say that you were a magician, people think of your silly uncle.
What was your best trick? I mean, are you talking like could you amaze me, for example?
I amazed people for a living.
Right. But you know what I mean? Sometimes you watch a magician and you're like...
No, I would fuck your brain completely. Like that was the type of...
Is there anything on this table you can do a trick with? looking
no,
around?
I have retired for like 8 years. I don't do but I used to do like hypnosis, like predictions, like a lot of. I used to be still a huge fan of like Darren Brown. You ever?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I did that type of stuff.
Right. So you kind of psychologically coax people into a situation.
Yeah, and it's like mentally melt people. Like I would love to do that, and it was just like I love to, like I said, I'm a bard. Like I like to entertain. I like to amaze people. I like to inspire people. It's something that resonates with me. And I remember that as an artist, I found just how much like I'm losing as an artist because people don't have money to watch shows because the economy is fucked and people don't have jobs don't have money for that. Because even though like you can have like a cultural preference for art or for entertainment, you're going to do that when food's on the table, the rent's paid, the bills are paid, the children are raised. You're not going to be like, let's cut the meat from this and go watch a show. Yeah, you're not going to do that. So then I realized like we could have a lot more of this if the government wasn't just fucking up everything, couldn't we? Or just how much Brazil taxes the crap out of like music instruments. And there are amazing Brazilian musicians. I've been a drummer for 8 or 9 years when I was younger, when I was an adolescent, and I used to play in a school that was like really, really serious. So I played with some really serious guys. Like some listeners might recognize the name. I studied under Achilles Priester, which is like an internationally famous drummer. And you realize like there are some really amazing guys in Brazil, but we don't get out much because like we can't get good equipment because everything is triple the price because taxes. We can't get good instruments. We can't get good systems. We can't like we're stuck underperforming because like the prices of things bar us out from good equipment, or we can't go and study abroad because this and this and that. So and you start to realize like just how much the state impedes human development. And then when I got to Milton Friedman and Thomas Sowell and like Free to Choose and realized Brazil is poor by choice, I was like, oh shit. We could be as rich as developed countries right now. The difference between developed and undeveloped countries are, did they have freedom? It's not that the culture or the weather. It's not that. It's, did they have freedom? That's it. Because like, how did Japan come out from being nuked into shit into 1945 to being a developed nation in the 1980s? That's 35 years. That's my life. Like I'm 32 right now. So what the hell? Or Estonia. Estonia always shocked me because it was a country that came out of like dead misery. In 1991, in the Soviet area, the Soviet Union collapsed. And Estonia came out, the average wage was literally the misery line, which is $1.90 a day. That was average. Okay, so half of the people were below that. And so they put up some reforms in 1992, 3, 4, 5, and then they start growing 10%, 12% a year. And today, the average wage in Brazil is roughly some $500, and the average wage in Estonia is like 1,700 euros. They're almost 4 times what we are. And that was entirely a choice. Brazil is poor as it is because entirely a political choice. And you realize this is like my life being taken away from me because of political choices. I'm being less in my life. I'm having less fun. I'm having less experiences. I'm growing less as a person because of that. And that's for what first, snapped me into being a libertarian. It's being like, it's not about like profit or Bitcoin or whatever. It's about me being in charge of my life and what it could be and what I lost and I can get back. I think that's like the like one of the most cruel thoughts you can have of like, what could I have been had not X and Y and Z? And when they're in your control, you can be angry at yourself or you can change that. But imagine realizing that you're never going to be A, B, and C because other people think X, Y, and Z, and that's it. Like that was my first rebellion. So I think that was very constructive. I don't know how much that resonates to people. But.
Well, I was talking also about free cities and
what's
exciting about that.
So circling back to that, sorry. So the idea of free cities is, well, now you can, right? So you don't have to convince tens of millions of people. You can just have like that space, and that space is free to be something. And so what you're saying is that it's not like a business or a profit or it's now this space is completely free to try, to experiment, and to become something amazing, right? It's kind of like, imagine like an athlete you follow and he gets hired to a really big team and you're like, now he's going to have the wages and the team around him. And my God, this guy's going to kick ass in about a couple of years. And that happens and you're like happy, that's the feeling I get. So the idea that we're finally going to free human capacity to create and to create very many different things. Because if you look at Prospero today, the idea is like that very, Zaha Hadid vision, which I think is just like fucking beautiful. But then you can have another vision, which is like a completely sustainable city with like no cars and it's like green and whatever. And like, I'm not that attracted to it, like personally, but it would be like so super awesome to see that. That exists, we now know that we can do this because and I work with cities today in my job, and I see like how they gripe on the smallest meaningless shit, like the budget to rent a Christmas decoration was over budgeted by 150%. They're like, we're discussing this. We could be doing so many more important things with our lives than like this. And when you realize the idea that you can have competing visions of a city, competing visions of cultures and civilizations, and just think about just how many different things can come out of that is just fascinating. It's just like, Hubble or James Webb is out there in the space and they're taking pictures and some awesome stuff is going to come in and you're like, oh, what we're going to find out now. It's kind of like the same feeling of we're now free to create.
So you're optimistic then?
Very, very, very.
So talk to me about that then, because there are many barriers to entry for the free cities model. And we know that because there aren't any that really exist yet. I mean, Prospero and Morazan, those kind of places, they're good examples, but I think, everyone that looks at them who knows wants to go further than that. So how are you optimistic when, I mean, especially coming from Central and South America region, what it's like to basically have the state come in and steamroller great plans.
Yeah, that can happen. But, in Brazil, we have an attitude. I don't know if that's international or not, but we have a saying, which is, o não já tenho, agora eu vou atrás do sim. I already have your no. So now I'm going to try to get your yes. So either way, we lost. So we might as well. That's kind of like the attitude. And yeah, the government can just come in and ruin everything. Yeah, but if especially if you're in Latin America and you think that, then why try anything? Right? It's a given that at any point they can do that. But I really like challenges and puzzles, and I really like the idea of the challenge to get that through. And I think that the thing that gets me optimistic about that is that we fought them and we won. We got that expert zone legislation. It was staggeringly easy. I mean, it was a conjunction of stars that aligned into something happening. Yeah, okay. But I mean, at the time, I was like dead ass broke, like completely, like almost no operational capacity we had at the time. I was in deep depression at the time. Like I had like difficulties like getting my day started. I wasn't operating well, like personally. We didn't know much of what we were doing as a team. We only had like a couple of years experience in working in the federal level, at a federal level in Brazil, and still we got that through. And I was like, if I would rank my quality of work at this point from 0 out of 10, I wouldn't give myself a 3. And we won that. So what if we had the resources? What if I had the team? What if we had the experience? And this movement is only growing here. Like in Brazil, we had a few rough years in COVID, but everyone had that, so that's not an excuse. Like, we're always having more people, and I think that's the big difference. If you think, oh, the state has always done this, there was never in the history of mankind an organized libertarian movement. I remember reading I think it was something like by Walter Block. And it was Walter Block talking about Rothbard. He was like, in like 1968 or something, some year like that. I don't know. He said, I asked Rothbard, I asked Murray, how many libertarians do you think there are? And he said, about 20. Like, I could call, humility aside, I could call a meetup on my Instagram of libertarians in Lisbon now, and in 3 hours I would get 20 libertarians in Lisbon to drink something, because I have done that in 2018 when I was here. I was like bored one day, and I was like, I'm just going to publish a video saying that I'm in Lisbon and I want to hang out with some people in Porto, and we got like 20 people. Like, like that. So there never was this movement. And I know that in a lot of countries it doesn't exist, but there is in some. In Argentina it's huge. In Brazil it's huge. I know that in Georgia apparently it's big as well. I know that some like Romania and Poland might be getting some stuff. I've heard. Okay, I might be wrong. Portugal has elected representatives. Ireland is getting some stuff. I'm not sure. The U.S. and Canada, by the way, have their own things. I'm not 100% in on what they're doing. But the point is that we're growing. And so if we're getting these victories and we're still young and we're still like criminally underfunded, we can do this. I mean, we can. And I think that this is one of those things where this is, it's kind of like soccer, like you can throw 30 balls at the goal. Yeah, the goalie caught 29, still made a goal. Still counts. We say something like, there is no ugly goal. It's a goal is a goal. It's worth one. So I got one, you got nil, I won. So you only really need one of those, I think, because people don't understand liberty. Like, there aren't people, and that's why I said I'm a bard. Like, my job is to tell those stories. People don't know those stories. People don't know the stories about how the state fucks up everything. They don't know the stories about countries that made huge liberty turnovers, like Georgia or Estonia, and that grew, or Rwanda. There is this big left-wing influencer in Brazil he was giving an interview and was like, these free market idiots, this never works. Tell me 3 countries, tell me one country that was super poor and then went free market and then they got rich. It doesn't exist. And I was like, okay, I did a reply video. It got 500,000 views, something like that. I was like, okay, let's just stay on Africa. I'll give you 3: Botswana, Mauritius, and Rwanda. Those 3 went free market, and they're growing super fast right now. And you only need one of those for people to look and to shake them into thinking. They might not fully agree with you, libertarian 100% in once, but once you show them, here's a country that, Rwanda, went to, a devastating civil war. I think it killed, 10 or 20%. Between, dead people and refugees, I think it was, 20% of the population. On a miserable country, that people mostly work in subsistence agriculture. Okay, and they came out in the 90s. And by the way, I don't think that's the perfect government. I have some criticisms to their government forms. I think there are some authoritarian things there. But that being said, on the turn of the millennium, they're like, okay, let's try the free market. Let's try to put some capitalism in this thing. And they start growing 10% a year. And people are profoundly changing their lives. And the Kigali zone today has the first mRNA vaccine factory in Africa. So Rwanda is the only country which has the capacity to produce its own COVID vaccines or mRNA vaccines in general. And the rest of the countries, they depend on the goodwill of other countries. So it's I'm not talking just profit here. I like this vaccine argument to common people, because it's here's a country which went to liberty and now has the capacity to take care of itself. And I know like a lot of people who listen are anti-vaccine or don't, but that's not the point. Like the point is, you see how this brings development in other areas, right? And you only really need one of those to give some very profound problems to the defenders of the state. So my point is, like when we work with cities, like there are today 2 cities where the mayor is a libertarian in Brazil. It is Joinville and Patos de Minas. One is 600,000 inhabitants and the other is 150. The first one, Joinville, the mayor, he's not like ANCAP libertarian, but like he's almost there. You know, he's a great guy. Oh, I love that guy. And he's from Novo Party. He's like free market, open stuff. His approval rate is 92%. 20% of the city voted in the presidential elections for the left-wing candidate, Lula. They voted for the guy who was like, yes, I like dictatorships. Out of 3 people who voted for that guy, 2 liked the libertarian mayor. So when we come in and we start to do stuff and we start to manage things, thinking on the free market and start to privatize things or put like better incentives or generally think liberty and put that on the city, pretty much everyone agrees, yeah, that's a good idea. And every city around Joinville, which is like the economic capital of the state of Santa Catarina, every city around that is like, dude, we're fucked. He's going to get all the industries. He's going to get all the business. They're all going to go. We got to do something. We're going to sharpen up, man. You know, maybe I don't believe in the stuff he believes, but the fact is that he's going to outcompete me. So I better sharpen up. And other cities in the region started thinking, I want a mayor like that. We're listening to the stories, you know, we're seeing what's happening there. We want that. So that's my point. Like, you only need one. You can throw 30 balls at the goal. If you get one in, that's still a goal. So that's why I'm optimistic. Like, I might have a win rate of 2%. I don't care. That's all I need.
Last question. It's a traditional question we ask everyone on this podcast. You take a year sabbatical, paid for.
Oh, wow.
You can do whatever you want. What do you do?
I wouldn't change a thing.
Good answer.
Wouldn't change a thing.
I was hoping that you were.
I would be like, oh, now I have more budget. Yeah. Can cut my entire wage off and hire someone.
All right, I'm giving you a bigger budget. I'm giving you an unlimited budget. What would you do with it?
Ah, shit. You know, I once joked that if I had $100 million, I'd have private cities in Brazil in 5 years.
100 million.
Yeah. It was kind of,
but you still got to convince.
It was sort of a joke because some guy was saying like, why don't we just buy like a huge piece of land out of some broke ass country like Eritrea or something for like 100 million? And I was like, you give me that, I can like fucking do a lot more than that in Brazil, man. It's not efficient. I'm really efficient on our spending. But yeah, unlimited budget, dude. Like the level of assault that I would unleash in the municipal elections next year. Like today, I think we can get like 200 city councilors and a few mayors. Like we're having some mayors coming in from other parties to the Novo Party because they're liking the idea. They're adhering to this. We're probably going to have like some 10 to 20 mayors by the end of 2024. And we're going to elect that more. So we're going to have some, roughly speaking, 10 to 40 mayors by 2025 and some 100 to 500 city councilors, something like that. Okay, I know it's wide, but still. Dude, unlimited budget.
Go on.
The chaos that I would be able to cause with that, man, it's just beyond.
But go on, through what channels? Like where would you allocate that
because
capital?
Like the main problem today is there are 4 main problems, I guess, for us to get that. First of all, like you need to train the candidates and set up their campaigns. You need to have trained people to work in the campaigns and to work in the mandate. I mean, he gets elected. Like that's something I was talking to Zema, actually, before he got elected. Zema today is governor of Minas Gerais. He might be president after the new elections. And in 2018, that comes back to something I said, you only need one. Back in 2018, there was going to be state elections. It was July 26th. I had just come back from Portugal because my birthday is July 28th, so I didn't want to be in my birthday in my country with my friends and stuff. So I talked to him. I had just come back. It was July 26th. He was 1 or 2% on the polls for governor. And we talked for like about a couple of hours because I was trying to meet him and see if I'm going to support him or not. And I decided I was going to support him. I told him, Sema, you have a big problem. And he's a very serious guy. He got very serious. He was like, what? I said, dude, you're going to win the state and you're fucked. You're just screwed, dude. Because here's the thing. And he was like, wait. Why do you think I'm going to win? I have like 2% on the polls. Because look, you're against two guys who already were governors and both broke the state. So all that you have to do is go on the stage and say, look, there's this idiot and he's friends with that corrupt idiot who is arrested and he broke the state. And there's this other idiot and he's friends with that other corrupt guy who's also in jail and he broke the state. And there's me. So, I mean, you might not know me, but you know those two fuckers. And he won with 72% of the vote. It was just insane. But I was talking to him, I was like saying like, you're going to be governor of a state of 22 million people. You're going to have some 10,000 appointed offices. In between secretaries, subsecretaries, this, the agency, the companies. We don't have 10,000 libertarians or free market people who have experience, who can take on those jobs and actually perform well. I mean, you can nominate people who we know they're free market and they're going to have to figure out what to do with this. This is a human resources problem, right? So coming back, we need to train candidates. We need to train their teams for the elections and for the mandates when they win, especially if they're like mayors. The executive branch is a lot of people. We need the campaign funding, which is, it's okay. And we need the reach. And the problem is like that's just really a money bomb. Like you need to reach people with your ideas. So everything that I do right now is organic in Instagram and YouTube. Like I don't advertise. I don't have the budget for that. If I had a huge budget for that, we would grow. Like we would reach a lot more people. We would find a lot more candidates because and this is weird to think. There are probably like some 100 or 200 city councilors today which would fully agree with what I say if I only had 5 minutes with them. But there's a city councilor in a city of like 30,000 people in some hole nowhere that I don't even know. And I can't reach that guy. So if I found that guy and had like 10 minutes with him, he would be with us. He just doesn't know. He probably already has like the values and the ideas. He probably thinks he's like kind of a right-wing conservative sort of type of guy. And he doesn't know how to, make sense of that. If he only had some more structure, he would be like, maybe we should privatize my city. Yeah, that would be a lot better. So if we had the budget to reach that, to reach people, to do a lot more productions on that, like there are a lot of ideas I had. I wanted to do like a libertarian cosmos, or a libertarian free to choose, like Milton Friedman did that, free to choose. But I always think like Cosmos because I think Cosmos with Carl Sagan and with Neil deGrasse Tyson, who did the second Cosmos, they're really inspiring. Like they're talking about science and astrophysics and stuff in a really inspiring way. So I wish I could do a documentary of like, I'm going to fly to 10 countries who had like bursts of freedom in their history and show to you and tell you their stories like full Bard style on how this meaningfully impacted people. Let me show you the before, the after. Let me talk to people because that's like fucking mind-blowing expensive. But that would be like beautiful to see because that's something that's not like intellectual argument. That's a hard argument. Like I'm showing to you what you could be, the future or what you could have been. And I think that would be beautiful. Like a lot of productions could be like that.
It's a battle of ideas, isn't it?
Not only that, I mean, I'm also going to go on something like that. There's something that Rothbard used to say that it was the Whig theory of history. And he said that there is the Whig theory of history versus the Kuhnian perspective on the history of thought. And the Whig theory of history is basically the British, with the Whigs. And the Whig theory of history is basically everything is always getting better. So whatever ideas there are, they are better and more scrutinized than the ideas before. And the academia is always debating, and we know that's not true. So is it a battle of ideas? In a way it is. There is the debate part, yes. But I remember that from Axel Kaiser from Chile. Axel Kaiser is a big libertarian guy from Chile. But the problem is that there weren't very many libertarian or free market activists in Chile. What happened in Chile was Pinochet did a lot of free market reforms, and a lot of conservatives got really rich off of that. And this is Axel Kaiser's explanation, by the way. He said, and those rich conservative guys, they started the universities, the publishers, the radios, the TVs, and they hired a bunch of left-wing people and let them do their thing. And 30 years later, Chile is left-wing. And they're like, oh, crap. Because they didn't promote the ideas, right? And what he was saying was when Chile fell and had those huge left-wing protests and Pineda resigned and yada, yada, there was the whole discussion about, should Chile go full left-wing? And he would go, I talked to him like personally, he said, I would go to TV shows, to radio shows, and I had the data on everyone. I had all the data on everyone. It was open and shut, coffin on everyone. Like inequality is still high, but it's decreasing better than pretty much every single country in Latin America. There's still poor people, but we're doing better. Like, in every single thing he had the data, and in every single thing he lost. He said, because it was me against like 20 guys. And I would give all the data and they would just reply, fascist. And that's it. Like, that's the entirety of the debate. So yeah, there is the idea part. Yeah. But the Kuhnian way of thinking history is like, most people don't examine their ideas. They don't examine their principles or their morals. Most people don't know the difference between morals and ethics. Most people don't sit down and think, what do I think about society, civilization, and values, and why is there wealth, and why does my country suck or not? They just kind of go with the flow because they have better stuff to do, right? Because especially when your life is going well, you're not going to sit down and rethink reality. Like, that's something I got from Lew Rockwell. I think Lew Rockwell, the founder of the Mises Institute, I don't know the story for sure, but I think he lost his brother to friendly fire. His brother was an Air Force pilot, and his brother was killed by friendly fire. And I don't know if it was Vietnam or Korea or the Second World War. I don't know. But what he says is that that's the event which sparked him into thinking there's something wrong with society. Like, we killed my brother. Like, what? And in some country that I don't even... Why? And that made him think, and that makes him have this theory that people really rethink society when they have those sorts of events. I'm not wishing that happens. I'm not saying like, that's beautiful, that we need more. I'm saying that if you got money in the bank and your kids are happy and your marriage is good and everything is awesome, are you going to sit down and think, maybe the world is just all wrong? No, you're not, right? So circling back, like, most people don't think deeply about those values, about how society is organized, this, that. They're just kind of going. So if you just stay on the intellectual debate, you're not going to get to them. If you just stay on the intellectual debate, you can get shouted down. You can get just accused of being like whatever, Nazi, pedophile, fascist, sexist, whatever. I don't know. You can't. So you need to fight all the battles, right? You can have the intellectual battle, but you're not going to win in theory alone. You need to show things. And that's why I love private cities, because it can show something. You can say, like, here's my idea. In a manifest form, you can go and walk around and see that it's nice and that it's clearly better. And that's what I want to give you to your life. Like, I'm not making some abstract argument after the third beer. I'm actually showing you would love to live in this place. This is what I want for society, right? And you got to get into the cultural debate, because arts are supposed... They're supposed to many things and also to nothing. But one of the functions of art is to show what beauty is, or what the goal is, or what you could be, right? So we need to have people on that. And the art today is like completely perverted to the left wing, to some adoration of the ugly or the stupid or the nonsensical. Like, just look at their music, so you have to have that as well. You have to have the presence in the schools. You have to have that in everywhere. So it's not just the intellectual debate, it's everything. Like I said, the idea of making a libertarian cosmos, like I could make just a very theoretical argument for the free market and just, show all the technical arguments and all the deductions from ethics and blah, 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 and make a 1,200 page book that nobody's going to read. Like only libertarian nerds are going to read that. Only people who already agree with me are going to read that book. So how do I get into people who don't have a clue? And that's why I love like Free to Choose from Milton Friedman, which was like pocket episodes of, here's a story of Hong Kong, here's a story of this country, here's a story of that country, here's a story of this invention. You're like, oh, this is fun to watch, this is entertaining, and I want that. As a chess player, the Queen's Gambit, the series. Have you watched it in Netflix?
No.
It was a series of Elizabeth Harmon, a chess player. It was just a series, and she played chess, and it was super fun. And it aired during COVID, and it got like millions of people into chess because it just looked fun. It just looked fun, and people, like, there was no argument in favor of playing chess there. It was just like, here's a challenge and she's having fun and you're stuck in home. Why not? And it came from art. So just compare, just to wrap it up, I guess. Ayn Rand used to say that the Atlas Shrugged and the Virtue of Selfishness are the same book. The Virtue of Selfishness is an ethics theoretical book on, it's a fully objectivist theory book, which is just theory. And what she says is, Atlas Shrugged is the same book, but it's on a story form. Atlas Shrugged is the entire deduction of her philosophy, scene by scene. As much as it starts, the first chapter from Atlas Shrugged is the principle of non-contradiction, which is the first thing that she approaches in the Virtue of Selfishness. And what is funny is that like the Virtue of Selfishness is like 200 pages long, maybe something like that. And Atlas Shrugged is like 5,000 pages long. And people prefer to read Atlas Shrugged. And it sells by the millions because it's a story, because it's fun, because it catches you by the heart. So, just don't just nerd out and think that people are going to listen to your super technical arguments and your Excel spreadsheets. Most people won't. And that's fine. That's not a diss on them. But we need to have... That's why I say I'm a bard. Like, I'm not here to be a teacher. I'm not here to be the super technical PhD guy. I'm here to tell stories that people think, that was fun to listen. And by the way, I can remember that story and tell that to everyone again because it was a fun story. And that has convinced me. And I mean, that's, I think, how I got to where I'm at today.
Well, thanks, Raphael, for your stories today. It's been good. I've really enjoyed that. And good luck with the talk and good luck with spreading the word.
All of that.
All of this stuff down on my sheet of paper here is like huge.
Oh, by the way, just to close, you know what the name of Seti is, Seti?
Is that anything to do with the space SETI thing?
No. No. It's SETTEE. It's a sail. Have you ever heard of the Latin sail? It's a triangular sail.
No.
It's a sail that was invented. It was commonly used in the Mediterranean, and it allowed ships to sail against the wind. But the problem is that if you call your company Latin, it's just confusing, right? And I was like, but there's a different sail which is called the Seti, which is you just cut the tip of the Latin, which is like it's a triangle, but the pointy bit on the end, it's not very efficient. Like you don't have a lot of sail area, but you have to have like a ship length to put that sail. So if you just cut the length and make it more square, you can have more sail area, thus more drive on your ship in a smaller ship. And that is the sail. That's the Seti sail, which allows a ship to sail against the wind, which is the name of the company that helps you to legally pay less taxes and find more freedom in the world. So we're helping you to sail against the wind. So,
well, hopefully
things have to have a story. It's cool.
Hopefully that we'll reach a time when we don't need to sail against the wind.
Yeah.
We can sail with the wind. I don't know what you'll call it then. Sale.
It's a square sale. The boring old piece of cloth.
That sounds like you.
Just go.
All the squares we've got are on sale at Square Sale. Okay, we better go. Thanks, Raphael. It was great
Thanks so
talking
much.
to you. Thank you.